Tonight's species is the most popular fish in North America. You can catch them from the bank or on a lake or even in a pond. They have large mouth and usually jump when they are hooked. And if you haven't guessed by now, it's all about the bass here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm Jamie Estrada. And I'm super excited as we have big news to share. Brie recently gave birth to baby Leo, and I'm happy to report that Mama, Daddy, and baby are all doing great. And I think we have a few pictures. Oh my gosh, look. Oh my, he is so cute.
He is so cute.
And how big was he, Rick?
He was 9 pounds, 7 ounces, 21 inches long.
That's a baby.
That is a baby. And more importantly, look at our girl there after giving birth with no epidural. I think that truly makes her a bad bass.
I like how you did that there. I noticed exactly what you did. But you know what? I think we have a great team of individuals here, including another really great guy, Mr. Dave Farrell over at the CCA Workbench. How goes it, Dave?
It's very good. We're learning a little bit about catching Florida bass with moving water, because we got a lot of moving water now. Every day it rains. Water's moving.
Welcome to South Florida, right?
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and kick this thing off by welcoming Captain Ronnie Houston in the Real Legends Southwest region as he explains how you don't have to spend a lot to hook up on that trophy bass. Give it to us, Ronnie.
Well, like always, it's a pleasure representing the Real Legends Southwest region. And like you say, I could talk about this for the next hour and a half, but we're going to keep it simple in my region. It can be caught throughout the region all year round, and you want to concentrate on looking at most canals, rock pits, drainage ditches, just about everywhere and anywhere there's any fresh water flow in my region. Now, most of it can really be caught by simply walking the bank, as well as kayaks, canoes, john boats, and you can even catch them in what Rick and I run, bay boats. Simple baits to get started would include top water or prop baits like the Chapo, swim baits like the Bass Assassin Diadapper, simple spinner baits, frogs, and a variety of 6 to 10 inch worms. That's actually junk fishing. You're using a variety of stuff and just simply chunking and winding. And when it comes to rod and reels, they do not need to be top of the line. They don't need to be expensive. I'm simply using the new Abu Veritas rods. You can get plenty of these rods when they're in stock at Bass Pro Shops. They're only $99, so keep an eye out for them. And I simply team them up with the Revo S or the Revo S models, which don't cost a lot either. And I can tell you, just about everywhere, every area throughout my region that contains fresh water that most people drive to and from work on a daily basis might surprise you. So by simply putting in a little time, you might just catch that trophy bass of a lifetime. And I got a couple prime examples of what I was talking about earlier by simply fishing out of my bay boat or a john boat, catching a good-sized bass up in the region. On the inshore side, the redfish, Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, West Wall, looking for areas of roaming mullet, fry bait. Good time of the year to be fishing artificials right now up there, especially on your lower stages of the tide. Potholes, troughs, and deep edges. On your higher waters, you might have to get close to the mangroves. Lower stages, top water walk the dog's lures, especially suspending lures that go anywhere from 6 inches to about a foot. Also, the gold spoon, 4-inch paddle tails on a jig head, bounced in potholes, or skipped up under the bushes. And for the guy who doesn't like throwing artificial, simple live pinfish and cut pinfish, as long as cut ladyfish. But also nothing beats chumming them up with live pilchards. And I got a prime example of a couple nice pictures of some fish that were just caught up in a tournament with about 40 teams this weekend, and it was strictly artificial, so the opportunity is out there to catch you a nice redfish. On the offshore side, the mangrove snappers. According to Captain Corey McGuire, for some quality mangrove snappers, Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass, depths right now are 75 to 95 feet, wrecks and ledges, heavy chumming. Also, if you have the opportunity of getting some whitebait or small pinfish on your way out before you get out to these areas, don't hesitate to use these on a pinfish freeline or on knocker rigs, as well as freelining whitebait. But simple box chum will work, along with dropping back small cut baits when you get the fish going. And I'll give you a prime example of some nice mangroves caught offshore sitting in the cooler. Last piece is going to be the red groupers. They've been abundant all throughout the region, and the starting depths right now have been 75 feet, and the zone for most reports I have gotten have been in the 75 to 95 feet, working hard bottom. moving around, keeping an eye on your bottom finder, but also having a variety of baits. That's going to be the key. Live pinfish or grunts, as well as live cigar minnows. But all you really need is cut bait, like squid, which is most generally the best. But each day can be different, and having a variety would be to your advantage. But simple cut herring, cut sardines as well. Most importantly, you got to have the bait. It's got to be on the bottom. Weather's been good all week. Weather looks like it's going to be good in for the weekend. Should be good, some good fishing. Get out and catch you some fish.
All right, thank you, Ronnie. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Catty Can hotspots from the southwest region. He says inshore, snook. Early in the morning, high tide, fishing the beaches, passes, and the outer Gulf Islands from Marco to Indian Key. And then offshore, laying snappers, Marco to Fort Myers Beach, 45 to 65 feet of water using cut squid or herring on a chicken rig.
Well, Rick, you always have to have the right gear, but you also have to look nice, right? Or at least that's my idea.
Absolutely.
And I love what we're wearing right now, Real Legends, right?
Yeah.
And right now, through August 31st, you can get a men's button-down Saltwater 2 or a Mariner 2 shirt for $24.99 or a ladies' short-sleeve Freeline shirt for $12.99 at reallegends.com. So don't waste any time, get right on that internet, but wait until the show's over, okay?
Wow.
Right now, let's head on over to the Discover Crystal River Northwest region with Captain Jeff Hagman as he tells us what to expect while out on the water this week. So, Hag, what do we need to be looking out for?
Bass, we've got them, and we've got some great bass fishing in my region throughout our thousands of lakes we have. Our bigger fish are usually caught in the winter months when they're spawning and getting on their beds. But shiners, plastic worms, hard baits are all effective in my region. We also have a little unique way we catch them. The guys on Lake Tarpon will actually throw a cast net and catch shad and then fish for them like we snook fish in salt water. They'll put a bunch of shad in their live well, get to a shoreline, and get a chum bat out and chum live shad and get the bass actually popping like snook do when we're saltwater fishing. And then you can just move and adjust your boat to get where the fish are popping and throw some baits out under a cork and catch them that way. Also, slow trolling shiners over grass beds is really super effective in our region. We've got a ton of parks in our region with lakes, ponds that you can access. Don't even have to have a boat. You can do a lot of walking. Check with local parks and recs in your area or your local bait shop to get places you can fish year-round without a boat.
Nice.
Moving on inshore, Captain Zach Zachary of Tide True Outdoor Adventures out of Ozella Keys Marina in Crystal River reports a hot redfish bite right now on the bottom of the incoming tide on mangrove points with jumping mullet. Bait of choice has been a live medium-sized pinfish, free-lined with a 3/0 trocar circle hook. Make sure to throw that pinfish right up against the mangroves, and I've got a nice photo of a beautiful fish.
Nice.
Great redfish right there.
Mm-hmm.
Moving offshore, the red grouper bite has been good in anywhere from 150 to 200 feet of water. Threadfin herrings or sardines tipped with squid are working well. Live bait has also been working great. Pinfish are hard to beat. 80 to 100 pound fluorocarbon leader, 6 to 8 trocar circle hook, and 6 to 8 ounces of lead. We'll do the trick with those, and I've got a awesome red grouper fisher from Captain Rob from the Big Nasty.
Wow.
Nice. All right, what else you got?
Big old fire truck there.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports a great gag grouper bite right now. Said most of the fish right now he's catching are anywhere from 250 to 200 feet of water. Live bait has been the bait of choice this past week. Big pinfish, big grunts, threadfin herring, or sardines tipped with squids are working too if you can't get that live bait. 80 to 100 pound fluorocarbon leader, 8/0 trocar circle hook, and 10 ounces of lead has been getting it done. And I've got a photo here of Crystal, and they did second place in the grouper, first place gag, and second place overall in the grouper grapple this week with one of those fish. That's a great gag there. Nice rusty belly.
Looks great. Hey, I got a couple questions for you. The first question is, you have probably one of the biggest fishing piers in all of the state of Florida, the Skyway in your region. Hag, tell me how you guys catch your live bait off of there and what kind of live bait does that consist of? I know that you guys get a lot of white bait. What's the secret to it in that deep water?
That deep water, you need a heavy net. And a lot of the things and why we have that bait, and you can get it year-round and it can be in one spot, is the lights on the bridge. So the bait's getting underneath the lights and getting comfortable and staying there all night. So we get out there before the sun comes up. We'll mark it on a side scan machine or mark it on your bottom machine, get where we're going to throw, and throw a really heavy 3/4 inch mesh net, a pound to a quarter to 2 pounds a foot on a 12-foot net in that heavy current, and it'll get it to the bottom quick enough to catch those bait. We also catch a lot of threadfin herrings there. So if you're going tarpon fishing first thing in the morning and you want to be there for that sunlight bite, you can go out in the dark, catch threadfins with that same heavy net. You can actually go up to a 5/8 inch mesh.
All right, man. Those are great tips. Thank you for clearing that up for me. Guys, if you need bait, you just got the great tips. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. Hag says inshore, the redfish on the bottom of the tide in the deep cuts adjacent to the mangrove shorelines or the flats and use cut bait. And then offshore, snappers on the high relief structure in 8 to 40 feet of water use shrimp and sardines with a light lead, Jamie.
Good stuff, guys. Now, right now, we are going to actually congratulate our Discover Crystal River Sweepstakes winner, Dawn. She went out and enjoyed her stay at the plantation on Crystal River this past weekend and sent us this picture. And the Fiffer crew would love to congratulate her. And we hope, Dawn, that you had a blast in Crystal River. Now, stick around, guys, because coming up next, we're going to see what's biting in the Fish Bites East region. And also, we have the Academy Sports and Outdoor Rigs and Techniques at the CCA workbench with Mr. Dave Farrell. What we got coming up, Dave?
That's more bass.
I love it.
Catching those bass in moving water.
Okay, we're gonna lay down some beats.
Jamie, I don't know if you know, but Dave is really a good bass fisherman.
I'm excited to learn.
I do it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to learn. Let's, stick around, guys. We've got a lot more coming up.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques. Dave, bass fishing is certainly the most popular part of fishing in the United States.
And Florida.
Florida.
Even we got all that saltwater, boy. Florida's, been long known as one of the bass capitals of the world. As a matter of fact, all those boys in Texas and California are catching all of our bass.
Because they took them
from
here
our bass
and put them
out
over there in all the reservoirs.
Exactly. And I grew up bass fishing. The first fishing I did was living in the same house I'm living in right now on the back porch, fishing in the lake in the backyard. But I called Scott Martin. Scott was supposed to be here, couldn't make it. And he's a professional bass fisherman. I'm an amateur.
He could have made it. Let's clear this up. He could have made it, but his daughter Hillary, she got COVID, and he was exposed, and I didn't want to bring,
Hey, that's not making it to me. I wouldn't be here either if I was him.
Exactly.
So anyway,
it's much more important for him.
Anyway,
to
I
stay
called
healthy.
him up, and we talked a lot about what he does this time of year, and especially because it's raining so much. That's what one of the things that we have, obstacles we have to face, that and the heat. We usually have to get off the water by 10 o'clock because they stop biting really, good after that. Or, if we find that mother lode of good running water that's moving, it's usually cooler, it's highly oxygenated, it's bringing bait to the fish, and he doesn't have to move. He can just sit there and have that fan blowing in his face. It's just like Scott said, it's just like a fan, that feels good. So they're sitting in a spot where they got a good moving current, usually in deeper water. Canals are great. Some of the canals are pretty deep, and if you can find the water flowing through that canal, which is happening right now because of all the rain falling, the pump stations, any place you can find
those things are open.
A lake, with a pump station in it, and it's moving and that water's moving, there's going to be fish there because there's going to be bait there. And you just got to find that moving water and stay there. And once you find that good spot, there's several things you can do. Scott says he rigs up 5 rods, and we're going to tell you what he puts on each one of them. The first thing that he likes to use is a lipless crankbait, like the War Pig there, a rattle trap, any vibrating lure. It makes a lot of noise, looks like a shad. That was one of the things that he said. The fish right now are eating shad, so we want things that imitate a shad. And you can throw those things out. They sink really good. They get deep.
Yeah, they make these up to 3/4 ounce.
Yeah. And when you're fishing in 10 feet of water, which is pretty, a lot of the lakes in Florida aren't more than 10 feet deep.
Right.
So you want to try to find the deepest parts you can find and work that moving water. Also, topwater plugs. He likes to have a topwater plug. We're going to talk a little bit about this little topwater plug at New Products, but he likes small, medium topwater plugs that can either spit or walk. This little plug can do both, but that's what we're wanting. He wants something kind of small, something that you can that spits more than it walks usually.
Right.
But, that's another thing. You have to be adaptable as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. Spinner bait is another one that he likes to use. Any kind of spinner bait. That one's got a little tail on it, but I like chartreuse and white. A lot of our water is dark, right. Especially if you're in really dark water. Chartreuse and white are the way to go. If you're in clear water, you might get away with some blues or stuff like that, but it's hard to beat a chartreuse or white spinnerbait anywhere in Florida at any time, let alone this time of year. They also like to use a jerk bait of some sort, any kind of shad. A white one is really good. Either with a weighted swim bait or without it, you can do them.
Right.
Depending on where you are, again, how far you want to go down. If the fish are up on surface, they might not eat a topwater plug, but they might eat that just running right under the surface.
This Bass Assassin Vapor Shad is the bomb.
Correct. And that's what we want to do. We want to, and also we have a jig head, a swim bait. We can use a swim bait. That'll be like his fifth one there. Any kind of thing with a paddle on it that he can just search bait pretty much with.
Steady retrieve, right?
And bring it back. Yep. And pretty much what you're doing is you're trying to find out what they want. You want to let the fish tell you what they're wanting to eat. And if you see a bunch of fish popping on the surface and you throw your topwater plug out there and you're not getting bit, you might want to change your topwater plug. It's not like you're seeing them eat stuff on top.
Right.
So all you got to do is change out what you're using. Either if you're walking the dog, go to the spitter. If you're using the spitter and you're not getting nothing, go to the walk the dog or make it smaller or change the color. You have to be highly adaptable, especially this time of year.
So I got a question for you. In salt water, when we're fishing a topwater plug, a fish blows up on it, then we speed it up.
Right.
Bass, they like it a little different.
Yeah,
how is it?
When I'm using a topwater plug, the slower, the better. No matter when. I like popping plugs, so I'll pop a plug and I'll just sit there and let it sit.
Let it sit.
30 seconds. I mean, it doesn't sound like a long time, but 30 seconds is a long time. And I'll fish with a lot of buddies, and we'll all have topwater plugs, and I'll be the only one catching fish because they don't have the patience. They'll pop it and reel it up and pop it and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they like it when it pops and stops.
Pop and stop.
Pop and stop, and let's just let it sit there for a little while. Look around if you want to. See if there's another one busting somewhere else, and you can reel up and throw it to them, because that's very effective too. If you see them popping right, and if you throw it into the melee, as it were, you're going to get bit. It's kind of like when we're tuna fishing offshore. You go trolling your tuna baits, big old tuna baits through the tuna school, and you're not getting bit. And you're seeing them pile on stuff. Well, they're eating all little stuff that you can't even see. So you have to drop down your stuff to match what they're eating. And that's pretty much what Scott said. You have to let the fish determine what they're wanting to eat. They're going to determine what they're going to eat. So you got to try to find out what that is and match it. And he said at the end of the day, if all else fails, use the old worm and the Carolina rig. Especially in deep moving water. It gets down there really easily, doesn't have to move that much. A lot of times the fish don't want to move that much, even if it's real hot and then the water's moving a whole lot. They'd like to just sit and let the current bring stuff to them. Well, this is a perfect example of that. When you have that sucker down on there, the weight's on the bottom, the worm is suspended up like a little bit, especially if you're not using fluoro, you're using monofilament line, so that thing will float really high.
Yeah.
It's a great lure. It's a great thing to use. A worm, but with a Carolina rig, is really good this time of year. Because you can go deep.
That's a great rigs and techniques segment. Appreciate it.
Scott
I'm sure
me.
Academy Outdoors appreciates it too.
Yeah, Scott helped me.
All right. Where are we going, Jamie?
All right, guys. Well, if action is what you are looking for in the Fish Bites East region, Captain Mike Holliday is going to reel out all the details. How goes it, Mike?
Hey, Jamie. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm great. Well, some of the best bass fishing in the country takes place in my region. From the eastern side of Lake Okeechobee to the smaller lakes in my region, like the Lake Ida Osborne chain, the Blue Cypress Lake, the Garcia Reservoir, the Stick Marsh Farm 13 complex, and Headwaters Lake, which is probably the hottest lake in the country right now. All those are amazing spots. And that being said, this is Florida, and every small residential lake, canal, or pond holds not just bass, but big bass. So, just about any nearby body of water is a potentially good place to fish, including golf course ponds. This time of year, the water heats up quickly, and that slows the bite in the middle of the day. So you want to be on the water early, ideally before dawn, and the bass are structure oriented. So you want to fish anything that provides shade, from any type of grass to bulrushes to trees to lily pads. You want to throw frogs, topwater plugs, and prop baits and swim baits, like a Bass Assassin dye dapper or an elite shiner or a vapor shad works really well. In the open water, Dave talked about a lipless crankbait. Chrome and blue back is the color for Florida. You can throw a white spinnerbait. You can throw a June bug colored worm, rig Carolina style or Texas style in that deep water. You can also fish creature baits. You can flip them on the reeds, like a black and blue skunk ape or punch craw. Work the heavy vegetation for big fish. Average bass in August is going to be like 1 to 3 pounds with fish to 5 or 6 pounds, even up to 7 pounds. I got a good photo of a nice bass that was caught in a small pond in Jensen Beach. Ronnie Lowe caught that fish, and that fish ate the standard June bug colored worm. Staying inside, the juvenile pilchards and sardines are really starting to stack up along the inlet shorelines and also around the bridges in the northern end of my region at night, like the Jensen Beach and the Stewart Causeway and the Turning Basin in Fort Pierce. Blue Heron Bridge and Riviera Beach has also got that bait school going on it. That's got the tarpon feeding along the shadow lines at night, and right before dawn, they're on the upcurrent sides of the bridge. Even during the daytime, there's still some fish around. Those will be in the shadows, particularly on the days we get outgoing tides. When the crabs are running, they're in there feeding on the crabs on that outgoing tide. A lot of the tarpon are in those 10 to 30 pound range, those fish that have been upriver all summer, but there's also been a good showing of big fish, with a lot of them around the inlets right now. At night in particularly, you get around the inlets at night right now, put out a big mullet, you're going to get those fish. Around the bridges during the daytime, bigger fish, and the crossroads that Stewart has them as well. Target the bridge fish with a live mullet, a thread fin, a pilchard, a bunker, or a live crab, which you can dip right on the tide lines going out the inlets. In the inlets, those fish really want an 8 to 12 inch live mullet. There's also been a good concentration of fish up in Big Mud Creek in the Indian River up around the St. Lucie Power Plant. Right at dawn is when that bite goes off. Live mullet or a saltwater assassin, Houdini colored sea shad. Those are going to be a top bait. And the fish up there are like 30 to 50 pounds.
Nice. Let's go offshore, bub.
Well, the summer sailfish bite continues to be strong off Stewart in anywhere from 70 to 120 feet of water. A lot of the fish are coming wherever there's an obvious rip, edge, color change, and a lot are coming around the scattered weed lines. Seems like whatever holds the bait is what's holding the fish. The sails are still traveling in small pods of 2 to 5 fish, so anytime you hook one, you want to keep as many baits as you can in the water as possible to see if you can double or triple or quad. And don't be afraid to reel in a bait and cast it right at the fish you're already fighting. It seems like a lot of the sails are dogging those hook fish, and you can pluck another fish right off that hook fish's back. If you see a free jumper or a fish floating or feeding on the surface, you want to run right to it and set out your spread in that area and work it for 10 or 15 minutes. You can troll ballyhoo or slow troll live baits, but the most consistent action's coming on live thread fins, pilchards, sardines, either drifted or deployed on kites with a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, a 7/0 choke circle hook. The average fish is 40 to 50 pounds right now, so you want that bigger hook. I got a photo to go with this. That's Captain Cody Rubner of Stewart with one of 3 sailfish they caught in 105 feet of water just north of St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a live pilchard. The other bite we got going on, the single most consistent action in blue water right now, is for kingfish. They're spread throughout the entire region, from anywhere from just off the beach all the way out to 140 feet. Places like Sloan's Curve off Palm Beach and the Zoo off Jupiter seem to have them on the deeper edge of it. The Loran Tower Ledge off Hope Sound and the 6 and 8 mile reefs, the 14A buoy, all have them in like that 75 to 90 feet, even out to maybe 120 feet. And then Vero Cove and the Kingfish Hole on the beach have a lot of fish in them right now. And just really any baitfish school you run by early in the morning's got kings on it. Target them by slow trolling live Spanish sardines, pilchards, thread fins, blue runners, goggle eyes, really whatever you can get. even mullet are going to work really well. Excuse me. Put them out on a number 4 wire leader stinger rig with a 2.0 4X strong treble hook. And kingfish are known for short striking or cutting off the tail of a bait. So if you miss the fish when it strikes, immediately put the reel in free spool and feed the line out. And that fish will just swing back around. It'll think you cut the bait in half, come back and eat the other half, and you'll get another chance of getting a hookup. Average king right now is 8 to 12 pounds, and there's fish to probably about 30 pounds. The bigger fish seem to be on the beach.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. Good to see you tonight. Appreciate, hey, you gotta have a little break because you didn't have to do 5 species bass in your 4 salt. You got a little freebie, so enjoy their extra 30 seconds that I give you off tonight, all right?
This is my easy way. Thank you, guys.
All right, bub, we'll see you. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots from the East region. He says inshore, tarpon on the Stewart Causeway. Fish live crabs on the float during the outgoing tide. And then offshore, the mangrove snappers in 65 feet of water off Fort Pierce. Use live or dead sardines or a cigar mino.
Mino.
Minos.
I love when you say that. So guys, there's still time to win in the CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha. Now, bass don't count in this competition, but every saltwater fish you catch could win you prizes. The competition ends Labor Day and will award nearly $500,000. That's right, I said $500,000 in prizes and scholarships on October 9th during the Star Awards ceremony presented by Discover Crystal River. Now, everybody's invited, so you can enjoy a night of celebration and dinner, drinks, entertainment, and conservation. And the tickets are only $55. You can go right now to the Star website for further details at ccaflstar.com. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to stay right where you are because the Alvey Reels Northeast region and StarTron Central West region are flying in next right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Nice.
Welcome back. And now it's time for your weekly reminder that if you would like a chance to win this beautiful 1952 Chevy 3100 hot rod, all you have to do is purchase raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod. The winner will be chosen at the end of September, which is right around the corner. So hurry up and enter, and good luck to you. Now, Captain Tommy Derringer, the man, the myth, the legend, is delivering the latest news for us in the Alvey Reels Northeast region. What hot off the press info do you have for us this week, Tommy?
Thanks, Jamie. I like that. You know, at the Alvey Soundcast Reels Northeast region, you know, it's an awesome place to catch some bass. It's something that, you know, I did a lot of when I was growing up, and it's available in just about any neighborhood pond. And that's the cool thing about bass fishing around here. You know, pretty much any body of fresh water, whether it's large or even really small ones, they're probably going to hold some largemouth bass. All you need to catch those fish is a simple plastic worm rig, or even a little beetle spin is a lot of fun. Now, it's a great way to go catch some fish for the angler that has a limited time to go fishing. You know, I've got a bunch of friends that can go to one of their ponds by their house after work. They can catch a couple of really nice bass and still be home in time for dinner. Now, we do have some of the best trophy bass fishing around in the St. Johns River. And, you know, but there's just too many great bass fishing lakes to mention them all. But one cool thing about fishing for bass in the St. Johns and its creeks and tributaries is that you can catch a bass on one cast and then one of our saltwater species like a redfish on the next cast because there's so much areas that have brackish water. Now, one way you can target bass this time of year is to fish around the docks up in the St. Johns River, and you can use a live shrimp, a mullet, or shiner under a cork. Now, you're going to catch some big bass doing that, but you might also catch a redfish, trout, or even a flounder, or even the occasional snook. Now, as it cools off over the next few months, those bass are going to get a lot more active. It's going to be a great time to toss a topwater plug, which is a lot of fun for bass, especially first thing in the morning. And once the sun comes up a bit, you might want to switch to something like a lip plug that gets down just a little bit. And I've got a picture here. This is James Romig and Colton Morris with some nice St. Johns River bass. You know, those guys, they were on the Florida State High School Team of the Year, and now they've moved on to the Florida Gateway College Fishing Team. So a lot of luck to those guys in their endeavors on the bass tours and everything. Now, moving to the saltier side of the inshore thing, you know, we had a nice little flood tide window with the redfish last week, and now this weekend we have a low tide first thing in the morning. You know, this is going to be a great time to get out and look for redfish with their backs out of the water. We call it backing. look on the banks of the creeks, the flats, and right along the ICW. They seem to really get fired up on the first part of the incoming tide. They always like that. You're only going to have a small window to see those fish until it gets a little too deep, so get out there early. Now, I'd have my clients toss a saltwater assassin sea shad on a light, something like an 1/8 or 16th ounce jig or a weedless hook. Now, just make sure to lead those fish by at least a few feet or more if possible. They tend to be pretty spooky when they're up there in that really shallow water. A live mud minnow or a shrimp tossed in front of those backing fish is also going to work really well. Now, there's also some big bull redfish showing up in the St. Johns River near Mayport, as well as along the bridges from Fernandina down to St. Augustine. Now, the usual baits like half blue crab or mullet, cut or live, have been working well, and the best bite is when the tide slows down on either side of high or low tide. And I've got another photo here. My buddy Gabe LaFave sent me this photo of Greg Grandstad with a big old fly-caught redfish that was backing down one of those banks. I'm sure Rick's done that before. It's a lot of fun.
Looks like it was really blowing hard that day, Tommy.
Yeah, that's right. I've never been out with a fly rod on a day like that. I don't know where that happened.
Yeah, where was he? Flamingo?
Right.
All right, tell us about the offshore, bud. Kingfish.
You know what? I'm talking kingfish again this week, man. I spoke to a couple of the nearshore guys, and they tell me the reefs from about 10 to 15 miles out are still holding good numbers of kingfish. Those sharks, they're still really thick. So, be ready to crank those kingfish in really fast. Now, trolling a live pokey either up on the top or on a downrigger has always, and probably always will be, the go-to for this time of year. Now, most of those kingfish are about 10 to 15 pounds, like Mike was just talking about in his region. But I did speak to Captain Rob Bennett from coastalfish.net. He told me he's seen some big fish pushing 30 pounds this week. So there are some bigger ones mixed in. Now, also spoke to Captain Rob about the cobia that seem to be hanging on both on the nearshore and offshore reefs. He said there's been some keeper-sized cobia hanging around, especially when those sharks are in the area. Those cobia like to follow those bigger sharks. You're going to want to have a pitch rod ready in case one or two of those fish swim up to the boat. Now, the offshore guys, they're catching them on the higher relief structures and a little deeper, in about 120 on out to 140 feet. Big live bait is going to work great, but you can also just jig for those cobia. Chumming with live pogies, that can also bring them up. Average size of those cobia is 15 to about 25 pounds, but there's been some bruisers hanging out. And speaking of bruiser cobia, I've got one last picture here. Captain Rob Bennett sent me this picture of Chad Howell, his wife, and their friends with a big old monster cobia they caught about 25 miles east of St. Augustine.
Nice. Thanks for all the pictures, Tommy. Look forward to talking to you next week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the strike zone northeast region inshore. He says look for the backing redfish on the early low morning low tide along the banks of the creeks, the flats, and the ICW throughout the region. Also look for the busting fish. That's always a good sign. And then offshore kingfish and the occasional cobia on the nearshore reefs and wrecks, just like he talked about in his report.
That's right. And I know I've caught a few of those kingfish. Exactly what he's talking about. Now, next up is the Centraltron, or if I can talk today, goodness gracious, I am just so excited about this. I know, right? Next up is our Startron Central West region, and Captain Jeff Page is telling us how to get our lines in and ready to roll this weekend. Let her rip, Page.
Yes, ma'am. In our region, we really have some good bodies of water for bass fishing. It probably all starts out at our state park, out at Mayaca State Park. There's an upper lake and a lower lake, and they're connected by the river. And the cool thing you can do is you can go up in the upper lake and rent a canoe and paddle downriver to the lower lake. Now, while you're fishing in the lake, there's lots of bass and panfish and snook and tarpon. There's a lot of gators too, so you got to be careful for that. It's a good idea to bring, some soft plastic worms, like a 6 or 8 inch bass assassin in the motor oil or June bug color. And then we have a lot of golf course lakes, and also we have Lake Manatee, which is probably one of the favorite spots for guys to go. And then twice a year, but I think because of COVID, they didn't open it last year, the FPL Impoundment Lake Parish. It's really good. You can go there on those 2 days. I think you have to sign up early, but it's something to look into. It's not uncommon to go and catch 50 bass. I've got a couple photos tonight. First of a friend of the show, Billy Ahlstrom, with a bass he caught wading.
Wow, that's a big one.
And my second photo is a good friend of mine, Jake Blunk, with a bass that he caught on a plug that he hand carved. And now he's starting to build them, and they're called Glunkum lures.
Nice. All right, tell us about the tarpon.
Staying inshore tarpon, late summer tarpon bite, Rick, has been spectacular. Down in the harbor, pretty much anywhere there's schools of ladyfish, you're going to find tarpon. That could be out in the middle of the harbor. It could be up on the deeper grass flat, where there's a lot of sizzle bait. And these calmer mornings that we've had, pay attention, because you'll see the tarpons rolling, and they're real aggressive. That lip plug, like the cutter, works real well. Or you could throw a soft plastic, I heard Tommy mention, on a light jig head to give it that slow sink, like a fish bites paddle tail or a fish bites hammer time shrimp would work real well. The Jaywalker 120 is a great topwater to throw if they're blowing up on baits. Always for live bait, it's tough to beat a corked finfish or a corked live ladyfish. My tarpon photo tonight is of a young captain, Captain Griffin Deans, out of the Manatee River Slot Machine Charters.
All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Yellowtail snapper. Rick, the late summertime yellowtail snapper bite has been like y'all's bite down in the Keys. Guys have been limited out, no problem. Captain Jason Stock and Captain Tim No have been getting their limits and moving on to other fish. They've been fishing 110 feet of water on out and using a good mixture of chum and fresh cut sardines and using light hooks, light leader, like 15 to 20 pound fluoro and small number 10 or 20 light wire circle hooks. Got a yellowtail photo, full send, Captain Jason Stock with a bunch of yellowfins and tunas that he caught last week. And my last species, amberjack, late summer AJ action. It's been really good, especially on these calm mornings. Guys are bringing the fish up off the bottom and blowing up on topwater plugs after they chum them up to the surface with pilchards. 90, 80 feet on out. And Captain Jason Stock says it's been really good throwing surface poppers with heavy-duty hardware on them and also vertical jigging. And my last photo tonight is of a big AJ donkey that they caught on the full send.
All right, thank you so much, Paige. Rest that voice. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the central west region. He says inshore, the speckled trout, a good bite on the grass flats off a Rattlesnake Key in 3 to 6 feet of water. Throw free lined or corked pilchards or that topwater Berkeley Jaywalker 100 in the bone pattern. And then offshore, mangrove snappers, the quality mangs holding on the structure in 70 to 110 feet of water off of Anna Maria. Use live or cut pilchards and maybe even a pinfish, Jamie.
Very nice.
Yeah, you did fish in a kingfish tournament over the weekend and you caught quite a few.
I had a few teenagers. I was quite proud of myself considering my husband drove the boat and I did all the fishing.
All right, I like it.
The way it's supposed to be, right?
You got the one-man band here.
That's right. Hey guys, if you ever wanted to fish with Captain Rick Murphy, now is your chance. Thanks to Florida Coast Equipment, the grand prize winner will get a day of fishing with Rick and 2 friends, and the second prize winner will have their choice of fishing with the Fiffer guide of their choice and 2 friends. Now, to enter in person, head to any of the 6 Florida Coast Equipment locations or head to floridacoasteq.com/fishing with Rick to enter online. Also, share any Let's Go Fishing with Rick social media posts on Facebook or Instagram using the hashtag Let's Go Fishing With and tag 5 friends. Last day to register is going to be August 31st, so go now and good luck, everybody.
Are you
right?
registered?
I know somebody though, I think.
I just need 1 or 2 more
just
people.
Just 1 or 2 more
register.
people, that's it. I can do it for you, don't worry.
Okay.
All right, guys, don't drift too far because coming up, we have the report for the Garmin Panhandle region and Taco Marine new products at the CCA workbench. Right, Dave?
Yes, that's right.
What are you clicking on over there?
Oh, it's a big Alvy reel. It's a special one.
It's a special one.
Yeah, we're going to tell you how special it is in a minute.
All right. Come on back, guys, right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
time for the Taco Marine Troll the Edge new products here at the CCA Workbench. You thought I was going to lose it.
I thought you were.
I had to slow down. I was out thinking my ability to talk.
Well, you got a good thing to talk about right there in your hand. It's the Stealth Hybrid 65H, and it's called the Hybrid because this one has a 2-to-1 retrieve. All the other Alvies were a 1-to-1, and that was one of the big things I heard from people. Oh, you make a 300-yard cast, and then you got to reel it in 1-to-1. Well, now you don't have to worry about that 1-to-1. If that was your only problem with an Alvy, it's been solved because this thing is 2-to-1, 40 inches of line.
Look at how fast.
Yeah, it's 40 inches of line at a time. So you can throw let's say a bomber long A. You can put it on a 12-foot rod and throw it out of your sight and get that thing and crush it in really fast now. So and strong enough so that you can pull it comfortably. It's made out of carbon composites. It's got a titanium spindle. All this is titanium in here to make it lighter. It's got 20 pounds of drag. I say it's got is an infinite amount of drag because you can pretty much lock it down. It's got, like I said, over 40 inches per turn.
10-year sand and salt warranty.
Yeah.
Wow,
so,
that's a lot.
Yeah, get you one of those hybrid 65Hs from Alvy.
Where do we go? Alvy US?
AlvyUS.com.
Nice.
Next, we got some Stiffy push poles here.
We'll start with the guide?
Sure, we'll start with the guide series. The guide series is, Stiffy's been making push poles for a long time. They make every one individually by hand. That's the guide series. It's 100% graphite. It's got the non-reflective finish on it. They make them 18 to 24 feet, but they'll customize. If you call them up and say, hey, I want one 16 feet, they'll probably make it for you. It's designed for the professional angler chasing fish that are very wary. They're very quiet. They have different tips you can put on them. 2 ounces per foot.
Yeah, and
incredibly light.
So this is the pole that you're going to want if you're technically poling.
Yeah.
You would want the hybrid if you're going to be staking out. You don't want to stake out with 100% graphite pole.
Because it's not very forgiving.
No.
The hybrid, however, which is 3.6 ounces per foot, which ain't a whole lot heavier. It's got an 80-20 graphite E-glass.
Correct.
So 80 graphite, 20 E-glass. So it bends a little bit more. Like you said, if you're in deep water, it sinks faster. You can stick it in the bottom and hold it down there.
The foot end is designed specifically so that when you're pulling out of the mud, let me turn it sideways here. This resists going into the silt bottom. It's like a little mud flap.
Doesn't create suction.
And then it's trimmed here, as you can tell, on the edge so that when you're going to pull it out, it's more like a knife blade. It comes out a lot easier. Where do we go to find them, Dave?
StiffyPushPoles.com.
All right. Now
StiffyPushPoles.com.
R&R?
Next, we'll do the R&R line through swim bait. This is a really cool idea. It's been around for a little while in a different version, but this is Ray Rocher's and R&R Tackle's version. You don't have to worry about any kind of coiling up or anything like that. This is a free line through. You pick your own leader. You can put metal leader in there if you want, but any kind of mono or fluorocarbon leader. They're 5-inch, 1.25 ounces. They float perfectly horizontal. They look really good in the water. That little paddle tail, it's a nice soft tail, which screws on there. Just got a big screw on the back, and they'll sell you a new tail, obviously.
Correct.
It's got a hard plastic head,
which is the weight.
Yep, which is the weight, and it's not gonna break. That thing is.
What I
really
like
strong.
about it, Dave, is when you hook the big snook, a tarpon, whatever that fish comes up and jumps.
The whole reason for it is that
this gets this away.
Correct.
See? Now your fish is over there jumping, and this is not. Now you're not. The weight of the lure is not helping.
Right. You can't use the weight of the lure for leverage.
Correct.
Next, we got some. These are the Berkeley Bullet Pops. We showed you a little bit about them on Rigs and Techniques. They're perfect little spit baits, but they can also walk. If you keep the line really tight and pop them, they'll pop. But if you do a semi-slack, they'll walk. They'll walk just like a bigger one. And those are really great for right now. You throw those into the big pile of shad, they're going to pile them all over them. 2 3/4 inches. really light, 2/5 of an ounce, and
lots of
a variety of colors, and I really like those things. I'm a big chug fan.
I know you are. You're a poppy guy.
I like the top water.
Big Poppy over here at the workbench. Good job tonight there, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, Jamie.
All right. Well, now that you guys are all wrapped up with the Big Poppy, and I'm listening to all this terminology and I'm learning so much, but at the same time, we do have other regions we have to get to. So let's head on over to the Garmin Panhandle, and we are going to talk with Captain Pat Deneen, who is standing by with a report on how to get us hooked up this week. Pat, what do you have for us?
Hey, Jamie. Yeah, the Panhandle region, we have plenty of bass fishing opportunities. Everything from big reservoirs, smaller lakes, rivers, creeks, residential ponds, golf course ponds. I mean, you name it. Lake Seminole and Lake Talcott are both large reservoirs in the northern part of our region. Both are really well known for their bass fishing. And I got a report from Tony Biggett, who's pretty much my go-to bass information guy. He's a bass guru. He reports some big fish are being caught right now in Lake Talcott. Fish up to 10 pounds. It's hot. I mean, the water's hot, the temperature's hot. So look for deeper water, moving water, or vegetation where you can fish under it and in the shade. The Choctawhatchee River, Scambia River, Yellow River are also very popular bass fishing destinations in the Panhandle. The fish with sloughs come into the main river, and crankbaits and crawfish colors are working well. The golf course and residential ponds, the black and purple worm seems to be the king. Sand dust and golf course ponds are very popular and productive. Fish early in the morning, late in the afternoon, to kind of avoid that midday time period. Then there's the fish picture I sent in that Dave Miller of Destin. He's a master of catching quality bass from these little ponds, and he does it daily on his lunch breaks. And there's a really nice bass he caught this past week.
Sure is.
Enjoying his lunch.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, staying inshore, the black snapper fishing continues to be extremely productive throughout the Panhandle. Scambia Bay, Choctawhatchee Bay, and St. Andrews Bay are all experiencing a really good bite. Small live baits, light leaders, and small hooks are going to get you your mangrove snappers. So anchor up current of some structure, be it bridge pilings, jetties, deeper water marinas, or really any bottom structure that provides some habitat. And depending on the current, you can freeline your baits, attach a few split shots a foot or so above your bait, or present them on a Carolina rig. Small pilchards, menhaden, pinfish are all good mangrove baits, but also a live shrimp is a go-to bait. The bay mangroves are running 10 to 14 inches, which is a pretty good size, pretty good grade for bay mangroves up here. Moving offshore, this is the time of year when white marlin fishing heats up, and it's definitely heating up. The nipple, the knuckle, the elbow, basically the 100 to 150 fathoms have been the hot spots. The better crews are getting 5+ shots a day, but they're also putting in the extra effort. But really, you have a very valid chance of catching a white marlin right now just by getting out and pulling some baits. And if you want to increase your odds, pull a bunch of teasers, dredges with ballyhoo or small artificial strip baits on them. Also daisy chain teasers off the riggers. You want to for bait, you want to pull a chin weighted or a skipping ballyhoo on 30 or 50 pound outfits. And definitely keep an eye out for good surface conditions like rips, lines, etc. But also pay close attention to your bottom machine. And if you see a lot of areas that are holding bait in that midwater, work that area hard, because that's where the white marlin and the sailfish are going to be. And then finally offshore, but not quite as far offshore as the white marlin fishing, but the dolphin fishing has been consistent for the past couple of weeks. Out deep is where you're going to generally find the bigger fish, but there's been a lot of fish closer to land. Many of the state charter boats that stay within 9 miles are coming home with their hands full of smaller chicken and swinger dolphins right now. They're either finding some floating structure, or they're having a bunch of fish swim up on them while they're either bottom fishing or live baiting for mackerel. And these near shore dolphins, they're not the bigger ones, but when you find them, they're numerous. So be ready, because it can be pretty hectic pretty quick. So have several medium action spinning rods rigged and ready, with either a small jig or a hook ready for a chub bait or a cut bait. And when you hook a fish, keep them in the water until you hook another fish. Keep a hooked fish in the water at all times. Most of the fish are running 20 to 25 inches.
All right, you got a picture? No pictures. All right, bud, thank you so much.
I got that bass picture, Rick.
I liked it. That was a pretty bass, and man, what a cool thing to do during lunch break. My kind of guy, I'm telling you, Patar. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. He said troll ballyhoo along the 100-fathom curve for white marlin and sailfish. That would be offshore. And then inshore, Shell Island beaches for a mixed bag of Spanish, blues, and bonitas, cast or troll or jigs. Check it out.
I tell you, there's nothing prettier, in my opinion, than a white marlin.
That's right.
I think
they are really pretty.
Gorgeous,
They're all lit
gorgeous
up.
fish. Exactly, under the water. Well, while you're fishing, though, under the water, you need to see, right?
Yeah.
You need some beautiful Bahio sunglasses.
I do.
And right now,
have
Bahio
them.
sunglasses are
at
the
me.
summer trend. I know, look at him. He's our model. So if you guys are out there on the water and all you have to do is log on to win a pair and go to hashtag #MyBahioSummerContest. Share a photo or video of your fishing paradise and tag and follow hashtag #MyBahio. And at Bahio Sunglasses, add that in. If your favorite fishing spot is chosen, you will win a free pair of shades and other Bahio gear. One winner will be chosen every Friday until the end of summer, which is just right around the corner, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're still wearing them, aren't you?
Hashtag these are my Bahios right here.
Hashtag his Bahios. All right, guys, we're talking bass. Coming up next, the R&R tackles Southeast region and Real Legends Central East region. And that's music to my ears. So stick around, we'll be right back. And remember, to keep up with everything fishing in Florida, make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our channel, YouTube channel at Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back, guys. Welcome back. Let's bring in Captain Jimbo, who has the latest info on what's chomping in the R&R Tackle Southeast region. Hey, Jimbo, drop it like it's hot.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, Rick and Dave as well. You know, in the Southeast region, largemouth bass can be found anywhere there's some fresh water. And one of the great things about bass fishing is that you don't need a boat in most areas, and the wind and the weather is definitely not as much of a factor as if you're going offshore fishing. Now, the Everglades has some great bass fishing, especially when the water levels are low, and that concentrates those fish in the deeper holes, and catches of 50 fish or more a day are definitely not uncommon. And then when the water levels are high, those fish will move up onto the flats, and they get definitely more spread out, but that bass fishing can still be really good. And then the urban lakes and canals of the region also offer some great bass fishing, and they're not affected by the water levels near as much. Now, the best bass bite is going to be early in the morning, then later in the day and into the evening when those water temperatures are not so hot. Then some of the best baits are live shiners, bass assassin, artificial worms. You want to rig them Texas style, or surface lures, crankbaits, and spinner baits, just to name a few. And there's about 8 million bass baits out there, so they all work, obviously. Now, our other inshore species is mangrove snapper, and they've been biting throughout the whole region. Look for these mangroves around any bottom structure in the bays, inlets, and the intercoastal waterway. Channel edges, around bridge columns, dredge holes, and wrecks. Those are all going to be holding fish. Now, the best fishing is going to be in the evenings using cut sardines, ballyhoo, or bonita, or you can use small live pilchards, Harrington pinfish. And I wouldn't recommend chumming because that usually attracts a lot of those small fish that are bait stealers, the small pinfish and the small mangroves. You want to fish your bait on the bottom, use a knocker rig with just enough weight to hold bottom, and fish on the outskirts of the structure, not right on the structure. And these mangroves have been anywhere from 1 to 4 pounds. Now, moving offshore, the August and September full moons are one of the best times of the year to target wahoo, and we're just now coming off of the August full moon. In the last week, there's been a fair amount of wahoo caught, and that bite should continue for another week or so after the moon that we had last weekend. Now, the bulk of the wahoos have been caught from Boca north to Palm Beach, but anywhere you find some north current and blue water, those wahoos should be there. Fishing live baits under the kite or on the drift in 150 to 300 feet of water is where a lot of these bites are going to come from, and big baits are going to outfish the small baits are going to get the most bites. And if you can come up with a live well full of pilchards or sardines to live chum with, it'll definitely help attract wahoos as well as other fish. If you don't have any live baits, you can troll for these wahoos, a drone spoon or feather, or in a feather and a bait, or a sea witch and a strip bait combo, fish behind a planer or a wireline outfit. You want to troll anywhere from 6 to 10 knots or faster. That'll get you wahoo bites. And it's also a great way to locate the fish trolling. You can troll until you get bites or find a productive depth range. Then you can put out those live baits. Most of these wahoos have been in the 25 to 30 pound range. I got a photo here. This is Eddie Capote with a 63-inch wahoo that he caught off Key Biscayne in 300 feet of water on a trolled ballyhoo. He had that fish mounted. He's got it hanging out up in his patio now. Beautiful fish. Now, the dolphin fishing's been hot and cold in the last month, but in the last few days, we started to see a few more dolphin offshore. The fish have been anywhere from 5 to 15 miles offshore, and they've been mostly around floating debris. There's also been a few caught off of scattered weed lines. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of bird activity in the last couple of days, but that could definitely change at any time. The fish have been eating rig ballyhoo, small R&R mahi magnet feathers, or different types of lures trolled anywhere from 5 to 6 knots. And we've been using cup bonita and small light baits once we locate those fish. Now, a lot of the dolphin on the floaters have been on the small side, so we've had to weed through them to find the keepers. But the few fish that we found on the weed lines have been a little bit bigger, and there's been a few fish up to 20 pounds caught. But you never know when a big fish is going to show up, so definitely keep a pitch rod ready to throw if a big one appears. Now, I got another photo here, and this is Brian Rogers with a really nice dolphin that he caught last week. It's one of the bigger fish I've seen in the last few days.
That's a nice fish, Jimbo. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southeast region. Jimbo says inshore, fish your local lakes and canals with live and artificial baits for both largemouth and peacock bass. And then offshore, look for the dolphin under the birds and around the weed lines and under anything floating anywhere from 8 to 12 miles offshore. That's a good big distance, 8 to 20.
That's a big distance, especially in that open water.
Yep.
Now, I tell you what, guys, I know y'all in the Central East region are going, where's my report? Well, guess what? It's next with Captain Jim Ross, who's spinning his reels for us. Hey, Jim, what you got for us?
Well, this species brings back a lot of great memories for me. It's one of the all-time great species that people all over the state target. It's probably the most popular species that we target throughout the year, even though many of us are more saltwater-oriented anglers. But people come to Florida from all over the world to fish for the giant largemouth bass that we have here. And here's the cool thing about it. As everybody knows, we grow some giant ones, and they can be caught just about anywhere at any time in any piece of water. Like they say, if there's a big enough puddle to have an alligator in it, it's probably got a bass in it too, right? So we like to throw saltwater assassin 5-inch didap or swim baits through the Kissimmee grass. We like to throw the St. John's Special 4-inch split tail shad rigged on a chatterbait head along the hydrilla edges or over shell bars. We like to throw assassin fat job worms with the black with the blue tail near lily pads, as well as 100 other ways to catch fish, in your local ponds, lakes, rivers. You don't have to go to one of these big lakes that has all these, fancy names and, caught all of these world record bass out of it. You can catch them right there with your son or your daughter in your little backyard pond. And that's the really cool thing about bass. They're great for kids as well. Usually they're plentiful. They're willing to strike either live baits or lures. And kids can actually lip them and hold them, which they make for great photos, and the kids can't do that with bluefish or Spanish mackerel or trout. So it's a really cool fish for everybody. The main thing I would suggest is to take your kid down to the local pond, even if you don't have a boat, and just spend a little time on the bank fishing for America's favorite species of fish. And I've got a picture here of Mason Calderon, and my buddy Jody Calderon. It's his grandson. Aww. And this is the kind of stuff that everybody watching this show can go do just about any day of the week at a little pond in your neighborhood.
Absolutely right. All right, tell me about the saltwater fishing.
Well, we got some snook out there, Rick. The fall snook season is getting ready to open in less than a week in my Real Legends Central East region. And if any of these catches that we've been getting in the closed season are an indication of how it's going to be a spectacular fall bite for most of our anglers out there targeting snook. Now, many of us captains have been getting good-sized snook all summer long on our charters, especially at the inlets. You know, the shorebound guys fishing at the inlets and us captains that are fishing in the inlets are getting them at Ponce Inlet jetties. We're getting them at Canaveral jetties. We're getting them at Sebastian Inlet jetties. You know, they're all over the place right now. And some of the best things to use, especially when targeting them during the daytime, are live baits like croakers or menhaden or pilchards. But I'll tell you, the R&R flare hawk jigs and the 5 to 6 inch assassin swim baits on a jig head are absolutely fantastic at night. Many of the docks along the Indian River, especially from Sebastian to Vero, are holding really good numbers of snook right now. And our average snook is running, you know, normally our beach fish and our inlet fish are running a little over slot. Some of them are in slot, but most of them are a little over. But you can get a lot of them right now that are actually in the slot, as this one I've got here that Robbie Parks from Jacksonville came out with me the other day. And this is one that we got with him fishing along the beach up near the delta pads. So pretty cool little fish. Swinging offshore, Rick, king mackerel bite is still pretty good throughout the region. Now, most of the smoker-sized fish are still somewhere between the beach and the reef. They haven't gotten all the way back to the reef yet after this last full moon spawn. The live blue runners, pilchards, or pogies that you can catch are going to be your top bait choices on a 2-hook wire stinger rig. And if you have ribbon fish, slow troll them on a multi-hook rig, especially on your flat line or on your downrigger. That's where you're going to do best with them. Our average mackerel is running about 10 to 20 pounds. A few of those fish are running 30, you know, and you can catch them even into the 40s on any given day around here. And then my last species is shark. And yes, you know, it's tax season and Mr. Shark knows all about it. They have been on the offshore reefs and wrecks here in our Central East region pretty thick, you know. Sharks are, you know, also known as the tax man. They come in every shape and size right now. Sandbars and bulls are the worst, though, about eating your cobia or your king mackerel when you're out on the reefs and wrecks. But if you're inshore, and your amberjack and grouper for that matter, but if you're inshore, you can actually target black tips, you can target spinners, sharp nose, fine tooth. They're all around the tarpon pods right now. And you'll also find some king mackerel and snook and mangrove snapper in and around some of those areas where you're finding those sharks, especially at our inlets lately. Now, most of our sharks are running 2 to 6 foot, and even the ones on the inside in the lagoon are running about 2 to 6 foot. So I've heard some serious reports of big sharks around the Haulover Canal and then up into the Edgewater area lately. But just remember, no matter where the tax man is this week, you bring a wire leader just in case you find yourself tangling up with one of those guys. And I've got a picture here, Captain Mark Gibson from Naughty Diver Charters, with a boy that he had out the other day named Michael. And that's a typical size shark that you're going to catch on most of our trips right now, about 3.5 to 4 feet long.
Well, I got to tell you, those kids a shark always puts a smile on a kid's face for sure, right?
It's the best fish of the day. You can catch a marlin and it doesn't matter. As long as you catch a shark, they're happy.
I know. Everybody knows about Jaws. Good job, Bubba. See you next week. Thanks, Jim. We're going to go take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Central East region. He says inshore, Big Black Drum and Haulover Canal use cut crab or jig head with some fish bites, crab sent over a Pimp Daddy colored saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad. Whoa! And then offshore, tile fishing, yellow edge grouper in 500 to 600 feet of water. You might want to use a whole squid, a bonito strip on those deep drop rigs that R&R Tackle makes, man.
Very nice. All right, guys, coming up next, we are checking in with Alta region, Alta Equipment region, and then also sticking around because we'll be right back here with a lot more information that you just simply don't want to miss, right?
That's right.
Right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Fish for the World. Noble Air Charters. Raising the bar yet again. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Everything you need to live life local. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
At Florida Coast Equipment, we understand you don't work banker's hours, so neither do we. You have a business to run, you have a family to feed, and you need your machine up and running. So our service team and our parts department will be there. If that means we have to stay late, we'll do it. If we have to start early, we'll do it. Because at the end of the day, you want equipment you can depend on and people you can trust, and we have a service team that will be there to service you.
Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Kick your gas into gear with StarTron.
Today's Power Pole tip, we're talking wireless remote controls. The Power Pole comes out of the box with 2 remote controls, a wireless key fob and a wireless dash switch. This dash switch is very smart. It has the ability to operate both power poles. If you have duals, you can operate your left one or your right one or both together. It also has this little speedometer here to change the poles from fast, medium, and slow depending on your fishing situation. As always, all our remote controls have auto deployment up and down. If you double tap any remote control, the pole will automatically come up, or double tap the down button and it'll go automatically down. We added a new feature to the Sea Monster app. If you go into System Configuration and you hit your remote controls, you can scroll up, change any of those remotes from a double tap to a single tap, which is really nice and fast when you're out on the water. That's your Power Pole tip.
All right now we're jumping into the deep in the Alta Equipment Company Keys region with Captain Randy Tao. Randy, how's it looking?
Hey, good evening, fish fans. Hey, Jamie, how you doing?
Doing good.
The Alta Equipment region, you know, bass is not really one of our target species here. You're not going to come to the Florida Keys to go bass fishing, but we do have some bass fishing not far away, and it's a little bit before you get here. Now, there's a couple of areas that guys fish on a pretty regular basis, and one of them is the highway road going to Flamingo Marina. Along that road, there's different lakes and ponds that guys can just pull over. You can put in a canoe or a canoe, whatever you have to paddle around, or you can fish from shore, and a lot of guys will catch some small bass around that area as you get toward Flamingo. And then the other hot spot really is on the 18-mile stretch, which we call the Aerojet Canal. And I know a lot of guys fish that, and especially when we get some ugly weather or we have a day where there's not a lot to do, it's a nice little change of pace. And it's a big area now. That canal system runs for miles and miles and miles. So if you're in your boat, a lot of times you can only go so far, and then you've got a dam that you have to deal with. And some guys will have a boat that they can pull out and take on the other side and keep on fishing. So you want to keep that in mind. But usually along that main canal is some really good fishing. And one guy that fishes it quite often, especially after work, is Brandon Pans with HP Marine Service here in Tavernier. He loves to get out in the afternoon, take a ride up there, fish that last hour before it gets dark. And he sent me this photo of a nice bass he caught up there.
Nice. All right, bub, what else? Let's go ahead and go inshore, stay in the salt. Give it to me.
Well, you know, the red fishing, Rick, has still been pretty good. It's been good for quite a while, actually, with the guys with the poling skiffs. Seems like you and I have graduated a little bit. Our skiffs aren't that small anymore, so I don't spend a lot of time pushing it around. And guys that do tell me that the red fishing's been pretty good and consistent with plenty of fish up on the flats and in the shallow water. Now, timing is key. You want moving water. Obviously, you want enough water to be able to get up on top of the flat to look around. So timing is pretty important. If the water's too high, sometimes you can't see the fish. If the water's too low, you can't get up there. So look at your tide chart and kind of get a game plan as to getting up there on the right tide and the right time. And a lot of these fish, they used to tail a lot. Tailing redfish was a big thing. Now they don't tail so much. Now they swim, and a lot of times you'll see a push coming with a school of fish in it. And a lot of guys have been telling me there's some nice big schools around some of these flats right now. So you might see them from a distance, and it's real important to try to get in front of them. And you're probably not going to be able to catch them if they go by you. So you really want to cut to the chase and get in front of them. I've got a photo of Captain Matt Rabenstein. He's no stranger to catching redfish and everything else, and he sent me this picture of a flamingo redfish they caught the other day.
Nice. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Here we are still talking about dolphin, and, it's a love-hate relationship right now with dolphin fishing. I can tell you some guys are struggling, like myself, not catching a lot of them, and then other guys are just finding the right set of birds and having some cooperation. Seems like 800 to 1,000 feet, a little bit deeper than normal right now. As we go into September, usually they're in a lot closer, but they seem to be a little further offshore, nicer fish, a little bigger schoolies, and a little more cooperative fish out there. Now, birds are key. The birds are on the fish, and depending on where you are, you want to watch the birds and see which way they're going. Just don't run up underneath the birds without paying attention to if they're going left or right. And a lot of times you can get in front of them and let those fish come to you, and especially if you don't have a tuna tower on your boat to look into the water. So guys like Captain Brian Cohn on the Contagious, he seems to be one of the very best at consistently catching dolphin day in, day out. He sent me this picture of his happy anglers a couple days ago, and he's still catching them.
Those are nice.
All right, Randy, good job. Are you finished?
I got one more, queen snapper.
Tell me about the queen snapper, quick.
All right, it's deep water, 800 to 1,000 feet. On those days where the dolphin aren't cooperating, guys are dropping down, get that R&R deep drop rig and enough lead to get to the bottom. And I've got a photo from Captain Davy Jones with Munster Fishing out of the Square Grouper with a nice little queen they caught the other day.
All right, Randy, thanks so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys. Inshore redfish on the incoming tide in the early morning. Look for the fish pushing the water and trying to get in front of them. Push, pull down, and then don't be surprised and let them swim up to the boat. And then offshore, dolphin, look for 800 to 1,000 feet. The birds are working to the southwest. Have a nicer fish under them. Make sure that your birds are working up and down before you try to get in the middle of it.
All right, guys, all 9 reports are in, and it's time to catch up some bass. But don't go away, because coming up, we'll tell you what we're fishing for next week, so stick around.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long run, for life. They know reliability starts here.
We are for those who know. Those who know that opportunity is nothing without preparation. Those who know that the right gear can make or break a day. Born out of a need for reliability, tested and proven on the Miss Brit charter fleet. From terminal tackle to all your live bait needs. Whether you're fishing for fun or looking to win a tournament, R&R Tackle has what you need to stay ready.
right, guys, next week we are talking all about yellowtail. You've caught a few, right?
I have.
I love
Caught a
those
few with him.
things. Yes.
I too. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think all three
We
of
did
us
a
should go
show.
out and catch
We did
more.
a show with Randy, and Randy was putting them in the live well. One jumps out.
Turn around. Another.
I'm like,
Oh,
what?
no.
Jumps right out of the live well.
Oh, no. You don't want that.
Nope.
All
Wasn't
right,
nice.
guys. Well, Brie, we are so happy for you. We can't wait to see you soon, but we're going to catch you next week. All right?
See you
So
later.
we'll see you guys later. Bye.